Welcome back to Wrestling Flash. In this WWE and all things wrestling video we are going to look at Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey attack each other again, Vince McMahon to contact AEW, Randy Orton's return to main event singles action, Daniel Bryan and Dean Ambrose regret leaving WWE for AEW. First, let's look at WWE fans called out for hypocritical treatment of Roman Reigns after recent reports. Roman Reigns has been in the headlines recently following his cryptic promo, Nick Khan's suggestion to move to Hollywood, and rumors that he'll be taking time away from June onwards. While his rumored transition into a part-time status has caused some uproar, a WWE legend called out fans for their hypocritical treatment of the tribal chief. This summer will mark 2 years since Reigns returned with his new character. He immediately kickstarted his Universal title run, surpassing 600 days, making it the longest world title reign in WWE in decades. Recent reports have suggested that Reigns will be taking time off as a Universal Champion to transition into a Brock Lesnar-like potential part-time role. It didn't sit well with a portion of WWE fans. On his latest episode of the Hall of Fame podcast, Booker T defended Reigns and called out fans for their hypocritical behavior regarding part-timers and full-timers. He said WWE shouldn't care what fans have to say regarding Reigns' status. I don't think you should think about what people want, especially as far as this goes. One moment, people are talking about how wrestlers work too damn much. And now when he said he's going to take time off, he's a part-timer. Which one is it? You can't have both. For me as a promoter, if I can take Roman Reigns and preserve him because he's a marquee guy for the company, why wouldn't I do that? I wouldn't care what people think. When asked if he thinks fans will turn on the tribal chief, Booker said he expects that to happen at some point. They probably would. The fans, a lot of times they want what they want. This December will mark Roman Reigns' 10th year on the WWE main roster. While more than a year of that was spent away due to injuries, medical issues, and personal reasons, he's been the most pushed superstar of this generation. As former AEW World Champion Kenny Omega said, Roman is WWE's top star for a reason, and there aren't many stars on the current roster who could hold the pressure of his spot. It took some time for Roman Reigns to come into his own, but he's been praised as the current best character in WWE. Given his impact, it's not wrong to say that Reigns deserves to transition into part-time status. Randy Orton's return to main event singles action. WWE Hall of Famer Booker T recently proclaimed that wrestling fans are clamoring for Randy Orton to make his return as a top singles star again. Orton is a 14-time world champion in WWE and is widely considered to be one of the greatest superstars in the company's history. This past year, the Viper has taken a step back from chasing world championship glory and has focused on tag team wrestling with his partner Riddle, with the duo capturing the Raw Tag Team titles twice as RK Bro. Despite the current run that Orton is on, Booker T stated on the Hall of Fame podcast that fans want to see Randy Orton back as a top singles performer. People want to see Randy back in that position, and I think this hiatus did him a lot of good. As far as being hooked up with Riddle, he said, being able to go out there and just entertain, put it on cruise control for a minute. That right there, it does the body wonders more than anything. And one thing they always say, absence makes the heart grow fonder. So, my thing is this, with Randy Orton, you can put him right back in that position. Let him run if we wanted to. WWE recently celebrated Randy Orton's 20th anniversary as a superstar for the company, and despite him approaching his mid-40 seconds, the Apex Predator appears to be showing no signs of slowing down. At WrestleMania Backlash this past Sunday, the Raw Tag Team Champions left the show with a loss. Therefore, this past Monday on Raw, RK Bro looked to get back onto winning ways. Randy Orton and Riddle were booked in a Raw Tag Team Championship match against the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. With both teams delivering many potential match-winning moves, neither team could seem to find one maneuver to end the match. However, RK Bro would end up retaining their titles after Riddle delivered an incredible RKO from out of nowhere to pick up the win. After their most recent victory, RK Bro seemed determined to finally face off against the SmackDown Tag Team Champion, the Usos, in a championship unification match. This potential contest that was originally meant to take place this past weekend at WrestleMania Backlash. Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey attack each other again. Becky Lynch took an amusing shot at former WWE rival Ronda Rousey in the latter's Instagram post. Rousey recently took on Charlotte Flair in an I Quit match for the SmackDown Women's Championship at WrestleMania Backlash. The baddest woman on the planet ended up winning the title by forcing Flair to utter the words "I quit." After her win, she shared a heartfelt post on her official Instagram handle, looking back at her return following her pregnancy. Rousey also wished everyone a belated Happy Mother's Day in the caption. For all you mamas out there, I know you're tired. I'm tired too, but you got this. Happy belated Mother's Day. Becky Lynch responded to Rousey's wholesome post, stating in the comments that she's not tired. A former UFC fighter responded to Lynch's comments and pointed out that she had Sunday off and didn't have a match at WrestleMania Backlash. Big Time Bex won the 2019 Women's Royal Rumble match and bagged an opportunity at Ronda Rousey's Raw Women's title. On the road to WrestleMania 35, Charlotte Flair was added to the mix, thus turning it into a triple threat match. The build-up to the first female main event in WrestleMania history saw Lynch firing on all cylinders when it came to social media. She took shots at both of her opponents regularly, and there came a point when Rousey had had enough. In one of her tweets, Lynch went too far and mentioned Ronda's husband, Travis Browne, in a derogatory manner. An irate Rousey responded by breaking character and stating that she would beat Lynch to a pulp when she saw her next. Rousey went on to post a heated rant saying that WWE is a fake sport. She also added that no female WWE star could survive a real fight. However, Lynch went on to pin Rousey in the main event of WrestleMania 35 to become a double women's champion. The latter went on a hiatus immediately following her loss and returned at the Royal Rumble earlier this year. For years now, WWE fans have been clamoring for the first ever singles match between Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey. Would you like to see these two former rivals go at it one-on-one? Sound off in the comments below. Vince McMahon to contact AEW. Ex-WWE star Buff Bagwell has requested Vince McMahon to send some of his old footage to AEW president Tony Khan. The former NWO member has been tagging Khan in his tweets on a consistent basis lately. Many fans stated that he wants a job in All Elite Wrestling, hence the constant tagging. Bagwell later joked that he's tagging the AEW head honcho since he wants to play quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars. In his latest tweet, Bagwell tagged both Tony Khan and Vince McMahon. The veteran made a request to McMahon in his tweet, asking him to send his old footage from Peacock to Tony Khan. Hi Vince McMahon, can you send some of my footage from Peacock TV to Tony Khan, thanks. Fans came in droves to respond to Buff Bagwell's tweet directed at McMahon. Bagwell had a short-lived stint in WWE soon after McMahon purchased WCW. He made his debut on the July 2, 2001 episode of Raw. In a singles match against Booker T, the WCW World Heavyweight title match ended in a no contest due to Stone Cold Steve Austin and Kurt Angle's interference. Mere days later, Bagwell was let go by WWE. The former NWO star has previously opened up about his WWE release. It was, well, if we release you, we ain't gotta redo your contract in 3 months. We can just bring you back. If we fire you, we gotta redo your contract and it'll be more trouble. Right when I heard that, as quick as I heard it, I said, start shaking hands and just leave on good terms. And I did. It's quite clear that Bagwell won't be receiving a response from the WWE chairman, and the veteran knows it very well. It seems like he's simply having some fun on Twitter with his recent tweets. What do you think? What are your thoughts on Buff Bagwell? Were you a fan of him during the Monday Night Wars? What are your thoughts on Buff Bagwell? Were you a fan of him during the Monday Night Wars? Daniel Bryan and Dean Ambrose regret leaving WWE for AEW. Veteran wrestling manager Jim Cornette recently lashed out at AEW for underutilizing Bryan Danielson. The American Dragon has allied himself with Jon Moxley since their grueling encounter at Revolution 2022. William Regal, who has been a mentor to the two men, became instrumental in creating what they later named the Blackpool Combat Club. A few weeks later, the stable inducted 25-year-old Wheeler Yuta. On last week's episode of AEW Dynamite, the three-man group continued their winning momentum when they defeated The Butcher, The Blade, and Angelico in a trios match. Although the BCC is quickly becoming one of the hottest factions in pro wrestling, Jim Cornette isn't a fan of the group's booking. Speaking on the latest episode of the Jim Cornette Experience podcast, the veteran described last week's match as a repetition of the same old story. Cornette also expressed his desire to see Danielson back in the singles competition. They might as well just run last week's tape because it's the same thing. Every week it's the same effing match, and they end up stomping the shit out of all the opponents and winning the match. And I'd just love to see Danielson in a singles match and in an interview again, so I could enjoy something instead of always having that effing plumber latched onto him like a goddamn leech, Cornette said. Jim Cornette went on to state that AEW missed out on an opportunity to crown Danielson world champion late last year. I'm pissed off. They had the best world champion in all of professional wrestling ready to go in December, Bryan Danielson, and they effing shot themselves in the foot. In late 2021 and early 2022, Bryan Danielson received 2 consecutive shots at the reigning AEW World Champion Hangman Page. The two men put on back-to-back barnburners at the Winter is Coming and TBS premieres of Dynamite respectively. The former WWE superstar failed to dethrone the anxious millennial cowboy on both occasions. Jim Cornette has often been critical of Jon Moxley, and the fact that the latter is now working with Bryan Danielson has made him furious. Not too long ago, the former manager asserted that the purveyor of violence was the worst thing that has happened in Danielson's AEW career. Letting Moxley out of the Puzzle Factory was the worst thing that happened to Bryan Danielson. When he was there all by himself, he was stealing the show. And now, if he would still be petty theft, said Cornette. The American Dragon last wrestled in a singles match on the April 6th episode of Rampage, where he defeated Trent Beretta. Since then, he has been involved in 4 straight trios matches, winning all of them. Do you agree with Jim Cornette? Sound off in the comments section below.